Good evening and welcome to the July 18th, 2023 joint meeting of the Springfield and Lane County Planning Commissions. I am now calling this meeting of the Springfield Planning Commission to order. My name is Matt Salazar and I am the chair of the Springfield Planning Commission. I am joined by my fellow Springfield Planning Commissioners. I'll just call you in order that I see you, not in any other order. Commissioner Andrew Buck, Commissioner Steve Schmunk, Commissioner Seth Thompson, and Commissioner Isaac Rhodes-Dye.
Good evening. I am now calling this meeting of the Lane County Planning Commission to order. My name is Eliza Kaczynski and I'm the chair of the Lane County Planning Commission. I am joined by my fellow Lane County Planning Commissioners, Commissioner Choate, Commissioner Dingham, Commissioner Hadley, Commissioner Snyder, and Commissioner Riddle.
Excellent. So thank you all for joining us in this virtual meeting format. I'd like to ask any members of the audience who are joining us by phone or online to please keep yourselves on mute and with cameras off until you're called to provide public testimony. This meeting itself is a work session where the public may attend but not provide comment, but there will be opportunities to provide public testimony later tonight during the public hearing at 7 p.m. Tonight, we're holding a work session and public hearing on the matter of adopting the Springfield Comprehensive Plan map and land use element and related amendments to the Metro Plan, Springfield Comprehensive Plan, Neighborhood Refinement Plans, and the Springfield Development Code. We are conducting this meeting jointly with the Lane County Planning Commission. Thank you for joining us, as the proposed Metro Plan, Comprehensive Plan, and Development Code amendments and some of the neighborhood refinement plans must be adopted by both jurisdictions. We will begin with the work session on this item and follow with a public hearing again at 7 p.m. Now, for a brief statement regarding conflicts of interest, there are two types of conflicts of interest: actual conflicts of interest and potential conflicts. An actual conflict exists when a planning commissioners or their family or business would financially benefit or suffer from a decision by the commission. Commissioners with actual conflicts of interest must recuse themselves. A potential conflict exists when planning commissioners or their family or business could possibly financially benefit from a decision by the commission. Commissioners must disclose a potential conflict, including the nature of the conflict, and then they can participate in the work session. Now I'll ask the Springfield Planning Commissioners to please disclose any potential conflicts of interest. So I'll begin, and I have a potential conflict of interest in that I work for for Homes for Good, which is the Lane County Housing Authority, which is a real estate developer that develops in Springfield. And next, I'll call on Commissioner Buck.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have a potential conflict of interest as I am a licensed insurance agent and I do business in the community.
Thank you. Commissioner Schmunk?
No conflicts of interest.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
No conflicts of interest. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Rhodes-Dye?
A potential conflict of interest as a realtor doing business in the community.
Thank you. And now we'll go to the Lane County Planning Commission.
Are there any Lane County Planning Commissioners that have actual or potential conflicts of interest? Seeing none, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, excellent. Thank you. And thank you to all of you. I'd like to now introduce Springfield Senior Planner Chelsea Hartman to begin the staff presentation. Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you, and good evening, commissioners. I'm Chelsea Hartman, a senior planner with City of Springfield, and I'm really excited to be sharing updates about the comprehensive plan map clarification project. I'd like to start with just thanking our Springfield staff team. Some folks are here tonight: Sandy Belson, Christina Kraz, and then other folks that have been integral to the project. I see Monica Sathers just hopping on. And then our GIS staff here, Mike Engelman and Mike Travis, as well as Liz Miller. Those folks have done a lot of the property research and map creation to get us to this point. I'd also like to thank Jared Bowder, who's been really helpful with coordinating on the Lane County side to get us to this point for the meeting this evening. So I'll start with sharing a presentation to provide an overview, since this is the first time for Lane County Planning Commission to be hearing about this project in this detail. Okay, is everyone seeing the slides okay? Okay, great. So I'm going to start with why we've been working on this project. A comprehensive plan is a high-level policy and planning tool that reflects the community's vision, and the comprehensive plan map shows the type and location of future development within the city. The plan designations shown on the map reflect the vision for how land will be used in a general way. For decades, the Eugene-Springfield Metropolitan Area General Plan, often referred to as the Metro Plan, has served as the sole comprehensive plan for metropolitan Lane County, including Springfield and Eugene. More recently, both of the cities have established separate urban growth boundaries, or UGBs, based on a determination of our land supplies needed to meet future growth. As a result, our comprehensive planning has been evolving towards city-specific plans, and this is one piece. Moving from one plan structure to another is really resource intensive, so Springfield staff has been developing our comprehensive plan in phases. The property-specific Springfield Comprehensive Plan map clarifies the boundaries of existing plan designations shown on the Metro Plan diagram, our current comprehensive plan map, which was adopted as an 11 by 17-inch paper map shown in attachment 2 in your packet. The Metro Plan diagram is a high-level schematic comprehensive plan map, but it does not provide much geographic detail, making it difficult to see how plan designations apply to properties in some areas. Here's a close-up example of how the information will look different in a property-specific map. On the right, you can see the details about streets and property lines as compared to the current Metro Plan diagram image on the left. However, there's not much difference between the plan designations as shown by the colors. By doing this work, people will have a way to see how individual properties are planned in Springfield with better confidence. The Metro Plan text speaks to the need to evolve to a property-specific diagram or map and recognizes that Springfield and Eugene will create city-specific comprehensive plans. To reinforce the key aspects of what this project does and doesn't do, this has been a fact-finding project to interpret existing information. This project's aim was really to clarify, but not revisit or reimagine existing plan designations. It's really an opportunity to provide greater certainty and make the information more accessible. Though this project is not exploring major change, it still has meaningful results that can benefit many. The project is establishing a property-specific comprehensive plan map and land use element that will be in the Springfield Comprehensive Plan. Comprehensive plans are sometimes some of the first resources people use when they're trying to understand what they can do with their property. Currently, it's difficult for some property owners to find out the plan designation of their property, and sometimes extensive staff research has been required to provide these answers. Adopting this map will resolve these situations, save time, and provide confidence in future decisions because people will be able to use property research tools that are easy to access and use. The map will also serve as a beginning step towards determining how much of Springfield's residential land supply is still available and buildable. This will feed into a foundational piece of the city's housing capacity analysis, which must be adopted by December 2025. Lastly, the project research included identifying conflicts between a property's zoning and its plan designation. Understanding the scale of this development barrier can help the city determine the priority of addressing that issue. For the mapping approach and process, the project team started by coordinating with agencies that were working on similar efforts and establishing how to approach engagement. This involved the Springfield Planning Commission in its role as the city's Committee for Citizen Involvement, approving a community engagement plan, and appointing a project advisory committee. That formed as a result of substantial recruitment within the region and consists of people who live or work in Springfield, as well as several private sector land use planning experts. The project team also created a separate technical resource group made up of staff from Lane Council of Governments, Lane County, City of Eugene, Springfield School District, Springfield Utility Board, Willamette Lane Park and Recreation District, and the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development. The next phase of the work really focused on property research for the areas that required interpretation of the existing Metro Plan diagram. We focused on areas that appeared to be near another plan designation on the diagram. This work also included ensuring Springfield's draft map reflects neighborhood refinement plans, which are already property specific, as well as any adopted changes to the Metro Plan diagram since it was last adopted in 2004. This research helped us to confirm what's been adopted for properties we had questions about. We also sent letters to property owners to seek their knowledge and understanding of plan designations based on what we found during research. In addition to the research, we held a series of meetings with our Project Advisory Committee, the PAC, and our Technical Resource Group, the TRG. Their roles were to provide suggestions to staff on desired outcomes for the map, but they did not vote on a recommendation. Their feedback was helpful in informing mapping options that were brought to Springfield Planning Commission and Council for guidance on how to move forward. This spring of 2023, drafts of the comprehensive plan map were shared using strategies from the approved community engagement plan. This included mailings to property owners for properties that required research to clarify the Metro Plan diagram, as well as sharing a project FAQ in English and Spanish. Staff also created a virtual project storyboard that served as an online open house opportunity to share the draft maps that we made available both as a PDF and an interactive web map. There was an online comment form to allow for feedback and questions, and printed project information available at Springfield City Hall. And lastly, there was an in-person open house for anyone to stop by to learn about the project, view the draft maps, and ask questions or provide feedback. While broader outreach efforts focused on sharing project information and providing opportunities for review and input, most of the feedback resulted from discussions with our advisory groups, the PAC and TRG, which was really helpful in informing this more technical project. A final meeting with the Project Advisory Committee was held after outreach ended. Their feedback helped inform map refinements as staff began to prepare the supporting text amendments related to the map. Since the technical resource group is more technical, that advisory group opted for information to be shared over email with an opportunity to provide feedback on the maps. Tonight, we are here at the beginning of the adoption process to consider the Springfield Comprehensive Plan map and land use element, as well as related supporting amendments, which I'll talk about more in a moment. So to do an overview of the map and the amendments, I wanted to talk a little bit about the different mapping options we received guidance on in fall of 2022. The discussions with the two advisory groups informed these options that were presented to Springfield Planning Commission and City Council, and city decision makers provided general feedback on these options. The first one was to not designate public rights of way. This resulted in base plan designations being shown for each property, while public right of way, such as roads, are white on the map. This helps avoid further complicating the land use process and helps with visual orientation on the map. Related policy language about right-of-way not being designated and how vacated right-of-way will become designated is included in the land use element of the Springfield Comprehensive Plan. In earlier phases of the project, staff were considering no longer zoning public right-of-way in order to have consistency between the comprehensive plan map and zoning map in Springfield. However, upon further review, staff determined more research would be needed to fully understand the implications of a similar approach with the Springfield zoning map. The second mapping approach we got guidance on was to show the neighborhood refinement plan details and consolidate similar designations where possible. This resulted in the Springfield Comprehensive Plan map showing adopted refinement plan designations where they exist, rather than showing both the Metro Plan designation and refinement plan designation. This simplified the map and made information more accessible, and the refinement plans take precedence and provide more detail than the Metro Plan diagram. The third mapping approach was to show all nodal development areas as overlays. This resulted in showing areas that were previously implemented as a base designation to now show a mixed-use base designation with a nodal development overlay. This honors the original intent of nodal areas while treating the areas consistently throughout the city and how they appear on the map. The last option for mapping was to allow for some flexibility in plan designation boundaries with clear parameters. This resulted in proposed policy language in the draft land use element to balance interests of providing some level of certainty for development sites while accommodating for unknown or changing circumstances of the development process. Locations and situations where this flexibility could include properties with split plan designations in the Jasper Natron area, as shown on this map, as well as properties with public land and open space designations near natural resources, such as the mill race and adjacent mill pond, the Island Park Slough, and Jasper Slough, as shown on our water quality limited waterways map. These areas were found to have ambiguous plan designation boundaries that were challenging to clarify based on the property research and outreach to property owners. Clarifying these boundaries for these areas will be considered as part of master plans, land divisions, or site plan review without requiring a separate application or fee to process a plan amendment. This language is included in the proposed land use element for the comprehensive plan. The purpose is to allow for considerations in response to development or site configuration in these areas or development constraints. The policy language also includes criteria so that changes in clarifying these boundaries do not impact Springfield's adopted buildable lands inventory. So following the guidance from Springfield Planning Commission and City Council, staff created initial draft maps to share with our project advisory groups in winter 2023. We discussed more ways to refine the drafts before community outreach. The advisory groups provided positive feedback on the PDF map since it was simpler with a consolidated legend and symbology. Both groups encouraged staff to explore more options to further simplify the map and legend while maintaining the intent of adopted neighborhood refinement plans. This feedback informed the revised PDF maps provided in your packet tonight, as well as the revised interactive web map available on our project website. Some further simplifications of the map, staff consolidated designations that were similar in nature, such as government education, public land, and parks and open space, under one combined designation called public land and open space, shown as the light green color on the map. This combined 5 similar designations into one name and color. Similarly, staff consolidated commercial designations that had similar names and intent under community commercial. Both of these changes simplified the map and also align with terms on Springfield's zoning map and they were found to require minimal amendments to reflect the change in some of these designation names. An overview of the different amendments to accompany the map. The map itself is proposed to be adopted as an index of PDF maps that show property-specific plan designations within Springfield's urban growth boundary. This includes neighborhood refinement plan diagrams and vicinity maps of the remaining areas within the UGB. The map will be accompanied by a land use element in the Springfield Comprehensive Plan that carries over relevant Metro Plan designation descriptions with some revisions and updates to reflect what applies to Springfield. The land use element also includes policies related to the map. I've already touched a little on the policies regarding flexibility and right-of-way. The other policies include encouraging alignment with Springfield's zoning map. Part of our work involved identifying plan zone conflicts, and the land use element includes a few implementation strategies about how and when to resolve these conflicts, such as when addressing needs identified in updates to Springfield's buildable lands inventories. Lastly, there's a policy that allows for administrative adjustments and minor adjustments to the comprehensive plan map without requiring a legislative plan amendment. This policy includes reflecting changes that have been approved in a land use decision, accounting for gradual changes in waterways, and allowing for corrections of cartographic errors, such as minor shifts in how property lines appear when there's updates to mapping projections. This will allow for the comprehensive plan map to remain updated. So beyond the Springfield Comprehensive Plan, there will also be amendments to the Metro Plan to reflect that the Springfield Comprehensive Plan map and land use element replace the text in Metro Plan Chapter 2G and leaves the plan designations out of the Metro Plan diagram for lands within the Springfield UGB. There will also be related amendments to Springfield neighborhood refinement plans. This mostly includes changes such as updating plan designation names to reflect how they've been consolidated and shown on the Springfield Comprehensive Plan map, as well as replacing references to the Metro Plan diagram with references to the Springfield Comprehensive Plan map. The Gateway and Glenwood refinement plans require Lane County co-adoption, while the East Main, Mid-Springfield, and Q Street refinement plans only require Springfield adoption. Lastly, the downtown refinement plan amendments require Springfield-only adoption. Those changes relate to this comprehensive plan map, as well as clarifying amendments that were adopted in 2005. This clarified the policies and the public spaces element of the downtown refinement plan by retaining new policies that were presented in Ordinance 6148 in 2005, as well as deleting policies that were first adopted with the original refinement plan in 1986. Lastly, there are related amendments to the Springfield Development Code, which reflect changes for consistency with adopting a Springfield Comprehensive Plan map and land use element. Since the Planning Commission's packet was published last week, staff identified corrections needed to the northern portion of the Q Street refinement plan boundary so that it follows the city limits at the time the plan was originally adopted as intended. This resulted in corrections to maps in your packet, the illustrative overview, our Q Street refinement plan diagram, and the Hayden Bridge Mohawk vicinity map. I'll share these maps real quick just for folks to see. So there were a few changes just to this northern boundary here. There were a few jogs where the city limits didn't fully align with how the refinement plan boundary had been digitized. Easier to see mostly on the Q Street refinement plan diagram. And then the other area where this plan boundary was shown was on the vicinity map for Hayden Bridge and Mohawk. I can share these again later during the public hearing or if there are questions about that. I think I just have 2 more slides. Let's see. Okay. And another thing that came up since the Planning Commission packet was published was a question about how to best show the Willamette Greenway overlay. So the 2 images here, and one we'd like to discuss with the Planning Commission, and get direction on during the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting is whether to keep the maps as shown in Exhibit A or to update the downtown and Glenwood refinement plan diagrams so that they show the Greenway overlay. Currently, the PDF maps in your packet only show the Willamette Greenway overlay on the vicinity maps, which are the areas outside of refinement plans, since the overlay was only included on the Metro Plan diagram and was not shown on the existing downtown and Glenwood refinement plan diagrams. One of the reasons we're bringing this question to you all tonight is if it's helpful to include this information just for consistency across all of the maps and showing all the adopted overlays and designations in one place. So the image on the left is how the current PDF map appears in your packet. And the image on the right is how the web map, the interactive web map on our project web page shows the Greenway overlay on top of Glenwood. So this concludes my presentation for tonight's work session. I will also provide an overview of the proposed amendments and the staff report during the public hearing this evening. I'd like to note that there was one public comment received that can be viewed on Springfield, Oregon Speaks. An additional testimony may be provided during the hearing at 7 p.m. At this time, I'd like to see if Lane County staff have any comments they'd like to share, and then I'm happy to answer any questions from commissioners.
Thank you, Chelsea. Sorry about that delay. I don't have anything to add at this time. Thanks for that great presentation. I did just want to highlight that the request for after the 7 p.m. public hearing is that the Planning Commission will deliberate and make a recommendation, hopefully to the Board of Commissioners this evening. I just want to highlight that point for the good of the order. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Chelsea, for that great presentation, and thanks to all staff for the work that you've put in to bring this to us. I know it's taken a lot of work and a lot of careful consideration, and we appreciate that. So with that, do any commissioners have questions before we close the work session and transition to public hearing? I will remind you that this is our main time to ask questions. We will have a chance during the public hearing after we've heard testimony to ask any clarifying questions that come up based on testimony, but this is our main opportunity to ask questions. Commissioner Rhodes-Dye?
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the inclusion of the Greenway, and I'm wondering, is staff leaning one way or the other on that?
I think why we are bringing the question to you is we are a little split. I think I personally can argue both sides of that. I think there's benefits to showing it on the maps just for consistency and accessible information. And I think why we did not originally include it on the maps was the Greenway was not shown on the downtown or Glenwood refinement plan diagrams as they exist today. But since we are going through this project of updating maps and making them more clear, this is an opportunity to include it. And I don't know if Sandy or Christina have thoughts about if they have ideas on that topic, but
I don't have anything further to offer. I think it's really I mean, we're looking to the commission in terms of your guidance on this. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It's really just whatever you think would be most helpful to people using the maps.
Cool.
Thank you, Commissioner Snyder.
Thanks. First, this is obviously an enormous amount of work, and so I appreciate it. I enjoyed looking at the maps and reading through this and learning more about the city of Springfield. I don't have a vote one way or the other on that Greenway. I think more information is good on the map, but I can see that it adds extra clutter, so I don't have a way in there. I'm wondering, Chelsea, would you mind repeating which segments of the city are part of the Lane County consideration? I got about half of that, and then I missed writing it down.
Yes, sorry, it's a lot.
Thank you.
So all of the amendments will go through co-adoption by both the city and the county. The only, except for the refinement plans, so only the Glenwood and Gateway refinement plans will require co-adoption, and the remaining neighborhood refinement plans are Springfield only.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Whittle, I think I saw your hand raised next.
Yeah, thanks. Is there a device on the screen to put up one's hand, or does one just put up one's hand like this?
I
can't
can see your hand if you raise it,
Okay,
your
great.
physical hand, but also there's
Okay.
a button that says reactions on the bottom that you
Oh,
can
that's
click
it.
if you
Okay,
want. Yeah.
fine. No, I just had a question on the Greenway. Do we know what other jurisdictions in the Willamette Greenway have done with their maps? Have they included it or not included it?
I think it varies for the most part. I don't think in Eugene, I think it just exists on the Metro Plan diagram, but is not included in most of the refinement plans, from what I can recall. I used to be a planner in Eugene as well. But we didn't, I don't know that that was a big topic. I know Monica's on the call too, and I don't know if she's able to speak to anything she remembers from jurisdiction interviews, but I think it's kind of a mixed approach depending on
Okay.
what the jurisdiction prefers.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Commissioner Snyder. It's just more information is good, but sometimes it becomes more clutter. So.
All right, thank you. Chair Kaczynski.
I had a little bit more of a logistical note. It seems like I was not the only one who realized that Zoom has updated their format since the last time I used Zoom and hit the raise hand button. So apparently you can now turn on a setting where it will recognize that you have raised your hand and then raise your hand for you. I also would like to note that we do have, I think, at least one commissioner who is calling in by phone. And I believe if that commissioner wants to raise their hand, they have to press *9. Which I found out from the instructions for the public hearing for a little bit later, but I just wanted to put that out there in case, so that commissioner didn't get miss his chance to speak if he wanted to.
Thank you for that. That's very helpful. And yes, definitely, if you are joining us by phone, you can press *9, or there's few of us, and there are enough of us that feel free to just unmute yourself and let me know that you'd like to be next in the queue, and I can make note of that. In the meantime, Commissioner Dignam.
Thank you. A quick question on outreach. How confident are we that property owners who perhaps previously were on the edge of the blob, so to speak, understand what, if any, impact these amendments might have on their designation, if that's the right word?
I think that's a great question. So we mailed direct letters that were specific to the individual properties to property owners as part of property research. Some of the research was really clear on what we found, and we shared before it was really unclear. You were near more than one designation on the diagram. During our land use research, we found records that it is this designation, and gave folks the option to provide feedback on if they had questions or concerns about that. Other properties, we didn't find a lot of really clear research, and so we presented options to them directly of this designation or this one. We did get a good number of responses to those direct letters, since they were more detailed, and I think instead of a generic postcard, a lot of folks really just were trying to understand the implications of what a comprehensive plan map is and how that differs from zoning. So I think folks, that was our biggest challenge with the project, was sharing what we're doing and that we're not proposing big policy changes, but really trying to clarify what's there and what makes the most sense while not trying to create any conflicts with existing zoning or existing development for those areas that were unclear.
So if I could try to paraphrase what I think you just said, we sent out individual letters to those property owners that were on the edge of the blob, to use my original question. And I guess if they didn't respond, I mean, that's unfortunate, but it sounds like we really made an extra effort to not just send out a general notice, we sent out specific messages. And one quick other question, it's a comment, it's not, I mean, that seems to me to be the only issue here, is do people who really understand that they might be impacted. And it sounds like from what you're saying, we've gone above and beyond. Thank you very much.
Sandy?
Hi, so Chelsea had mentioned that Monica Sather is tuning in. She's one of the planners who worked on this project, and she let me know that in the research that we had done on other jurisdictions responding to previous question, 3 of the cities that we interviewed about how they approach this topic had greenways, and none of them showed the greenway in their refinement plans. So, you know, that's not all cities affected by the Willamette Greenway, but the 3 that we did interview did not choose to show it. 2 of them did show it on their zoning map, and assuming that was the greenway setback rather than the overlay. So there was an attempt in 2 of the cities to show it, but they chose the zoning map rather than the plan designations for the neighborhood refinement plans.
Thank you. That's really helpful context. All right, I'll just give it a little more time to see if any other questions percolate. The Springfield commissioners know that I'm comfortable with uncomfortable silences. All right, and seeing no other questions, we will have an opportunity to ask any other additional clarifying questions after hearing public testimony in the regular session in the public hearing. Sandy, do you still have your hand raised?
I raised it again. If we could, before we adjourn the work session, ask about the dates. Since we have a little bit of time, for a different topic, not this topic tonight, but we, as you know, we're getting together again on August 1st for another joint public hearing on development code amendments for 3 different topic areas. So there will be 3 public hearings. We've learned that one of those, we actually need to send out a Measure 56 notice to some affected property owners, which means that we need to be able to continue that public hearing. So we had reached out to Springfield Planning Commissions to see if our commissioners could meet on Tuesday instead of Wednesday. Because it's a holiday, our Planning Commission usually moves its meeting to Wednesday since council meets on Tuesday. And I heard back from some, but I'm just wanting to check if we could have a quorum of the Springfield Planning Commission so that we could join the Lane County Planning Commission on that same night as your usual meeting, and be able to have that continued public hearing if we as an option when we come back to you in August. So we're looking for Springfield Planning Commissioners availability on Tuesday, September 5th.
Thanks, Sandy. Yeah, for me, just to chip in first personally, I'm available on Tuesday. Tuesday actually works a little better for me than Wednesday. So yeah, the 5th would work great for me.
Works for me.
Yeah, same for me. Tuesday is better.
Yeah, I can do Tuesday.
Excellent. So that's
Okay.
a majority. I think we'll go with Tuesday.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. All right. So with no other orders of business, I'll now adjourn the Springfield Planning Commission work session.
And I will adjourn the Lane County Planning Commission work session.
And we will return at 7 p.m. for a public. Thank you, Sarah. And while commissioners filter back in, I have a fairly long opening remarks, so I can just get started on that as folks turn on their cameras. But it looks like we've got most everybody here. So good evening. Thank you all for joining us in this virtual meeting format. We will now hold a public hearing to hear testimony on the matter of adopting the Springfield Comprehensive Plan map and land use element and related amendments to the Metro Plan, Springfield Comprehensive Plan, Neighborhood Refinement Plans, and the Springfield Development Code. We're conducting this meeting jointly with the Lane County Planning Commission, as the proposed Metro Plan, Comprehensive Plan, and Development Code amendments and some of the neighborhood refinement plans must be adopted by both jurisdictions. To provide some context, the planning commissions are not the final decision makers in this matter. After the planning commissioners have reviewed the proposed amendments and other relevant material provided by staff, including testimony from the public, each planning commission will make a recommendation to its own elected officials, those being the Lane County Board of Commissioners and the Springfield City Council. Then, City Council and the Board of Commissioners will consider their Planning Commission's recommendation, and they will hold their own joint public hearing before making their final decisions on the proposed amendments. Before we open the public hearing, I want to let the public know a little bit about the Planning Commissions and our role. We are unpaid volunteers appointed by the Springfield City Council and Lane County Board of Commissioners, respectively. As Planning Commissioners, we're committed to balancing all of the community's needs and to making the best recommendations we possibly can based on city and county policies and Oregon laws for us and for future generations. I want to thank everyone for their patience and flexibility as we work within this virtual meeting format. As always, feel free to contact staff if there is testimony you were not able to provide or wish to provide in a different manner. I would like to ask members of the audience who are joining us by phone or online to please keep yourselves on mute and your camera off until you are called to provide public testimony. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or press *9 if joining by phone. If you are attending in person, please fill out a request to speak card and present it to the Planning Commission assistant. When called upon to speak, please state your name and mailing address, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And again, I'll remind you that this item will be coming before the joint meeting of the Springfield City Council and Lane County Board of Commissioners. And if you don't have a chance to provide testimony in this meeting, you will be able to provide testimony in that future meeting. Testimony presented at this public hearing should be directed towards the applicable approval criteria or other criteria that the speaker believes apply to the decision. In general, the approval criteria require that any plan amendments must be consistent with the applicable statewide planning goals, the Metro Plan, and Springfield Comprehensive Plan. Staff have prepared findings to demonstrate that this is the case with the proposed amendments, which are included in the materials for this meeting. For Springfield, the applicable criteria are Springfield Development Code, Section 5.6.115 and 5.14.135, and statewide planning goals / Oregon administrative rules.
For Lane County, the applicable approval criteria are Lane Code Chapters 10.600-15, applicable land use regulations, 12.100.050, methods of adoption and amendment, and 12.300.030, Metro Plan amendment criteria, and statewide planning goals, Oregon administrative rules.
And with that, I am now opening the public hearing for the Springfield Planning Commission, and I invite Chair Kaczynski to open the public hearing for Lane County.
The Lane County Planning Commission public hearing is now open. And just as a note for the record in the minutes, one of our planning commissioners, Commissioner Whittle, had to leave. And so even though he was here for the work session, he is not able to participate in this portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Chair Kaczynski. Before we begin receiving public testimony, We will have a brief presentation from staff to introduce the project and to summarize the staff report. I'd like to introduce Springfield Senior Planner Chelsea Hartman to begin the presentation.
So thank you, and sorry if this feels a little bit repetitive since we just had the work session, but I'm Chelsea Hartman, Senior Planner with City of Springfield, and I'll start with a brief presentation to provide an overview of the proposed amendments as well as the staff report and findings in your packet tonight.
Do they have to do a conflict of interest? Yeah, commissioners, can the Springfield commissioners pause and declare any potential conflicts of interest? This is a new meeting, and so I would just prefer to have it on the record of each meeting that those declarations have been done.
Thank you. All right, yeah, absolutely. We can declare those potential conflicts of interest again. Christina, do you think it'd be helpful to mention the criteria for potential conflicts of interest again?
Yeah, a potential conflict of interest is just a conflict that arises if the proposed amendments could impact yours or a family member's financial interest or that of a business that you or your family member is associated with. The City of Springfield has received advice from Oregon Government Ethics Commission staff that the Planning Commission on a type 4 decision that is where the ultimate decision is made by City Council can only have potential conflicts of interest because you do not make any final decisions. And the City Council can amend those recommendations that you make before the decision is final. So I don't think you need to do a roll call vote, but whomever declared a potential conflict in the work session, if you could repeat that now, or if you missed declaring a conflict earlier and you need to do so now, please do that.
Thank you. I can go first, and I'll just note again that I work for Homes for Good, the county housing agency, and as such, this is an organization. I work for an organization that is a real estate developer in the city of Springfield. I know we had a couple other commissioners declare potential conflicts of interest, so just go ahead and feel free to share those.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Salazar. This is Commissioner Buck, and I have a potential conflict of interest in that I am an insurance agent and I do business in the city and county.
Thank you, Commissioner Buck.
Isaac Roadstye. I have a potential conflict of interest as a realtor working in the community.
Thank you, Commissioner Rhodes-Dye. All right, excellent. Thank you for noting that, Christina. And okay, and with that, we'll hand it off to Chelsea again. Take it away.
Awesome.
If I could jump in, could we have the Lane County Planning Commission also disclose conflicts of interest? Thank you.
Do any Lane County Planning Commissioners have any potential conflict or actual conflicts of interest? Hearing none, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Kaczynski. Okay, Chelsea, this time it's your go.
Third time's the charm. Okay. Okay, so the proposed amendments tonight, the City of Springfield and Lane County are seeking approval of amendments to adopt a Springfield Comprehensive Plan map and land use element that will replace the text in Chapter 2G of the Eugene Springfield Metropolitan Area General Plan, or Metro Plan, as well as the plan designations shown on the Metro Plan diagram for land within the Springfield urban growth boundary. This proposal also includes amendments to the Metro Plan, Springfield Comprehensive Plan, Springfield's Downtown, East Main, Gateway, Glenwood, Mid-Springfield, and Q Street Neighborhood Refinement Plans, and the Springfield Development Code. This is a Type 4 legislative amendment that will apply to all land within the Springfield urban growth boundary, which includes land within the city limits, as well as urbanizable land outside the city limits. Most of the amendments require review and recommendations by both the Springfield and Lane County Planning Commissions. However, Springfield's Downtown, East Main, Mid-Springfield, and Q Street Neighborhood Refinement Plans only require Springfield adoption. So just a quick recap on project background. The Metro Plan was created as the sole long-range plan for metropolitan Lane County, including Springfield and Eugene. Both of the cities have recently established separate urban growth boundaries based on a determination of land supplies for future growth. And as a result, comprehensive planning has been evolving towards city-specific plans. Creating a Springfield comprehensive plan map and land use element is one additional step towards a Springfield comprehensive plan. This map will show existing plan designations for each property in Springfield by interpreting and clarifying the Metro Plan diagram that was adopted as an 11 by 17 inch paper map in 2004. The Metro Plan is a broad brush graphic depiction and does not meet today's needs for showing which plan designations apply to each property within the region. Establishing a property-specific Springfield comprehensive plan map will add greater certainty for understanding planned land uses, and the map will provide timely, accurate information, ultimately increasing confidence in the land use process by providing a solid visual understanding of our existing plans and policies. Springfield staff approached this project with a mix of policy and technical research and informed conversations to seek input on mapping approaches. Given the scale of the Metro Plan diagram, it was not always clear how to precisely draw the line between differing plan designations to develop our Springfield Comprehensive Plan map. Staff began the work to clarify the plan designation boundaries by researching land use records for all properties that appeared to be near another designation on the diagram. Staff also verified that the proposed comprehensive plan map reflects neighborhood refinement plans and any adopted changes to the Metro Plan diagram since 2004. The project's community engagement plan included strategies for working with stakeholders and the general public, including outreach to the broader community, as well as direct outreach to the property owners within areas that required interpretation in order to seek their knowledge and confirm the understanding of plan designations for their properties. Staff also conducted interviews with city jurisdictions in Oregon and held discussions with our project advisory groups, which consist of partner agencies as well as people who live and work in Springfield. Lastly, there was guidance from Springfield Planning Commission and City Council, which influenced how the proposed map looks and functions in the context of the proposed land use element of our comprehensive plan. Attachment 3 in your packet provides additional detail about the methodology and approach to creating the property-specific Springfield comprehensive plan map. Here's the illustrative overview of the map, which was a result of the work to date. More detailed area maps are provided in Attachment 1, Exhibit A of your packet. Some of the mapping approaches that we received guidance on along the way included not designating public rights-of-way for easier visual orientation of the map, showing adopted neighborhood refinement plan details, and consolidating similar designations where possible, showing all nodal development areas as overlays throughout the city, and allowing for some flexibility and plan designation boundaries with clear parameters as noted in the proposed land use element. This proposal includes amendments to the Metro Plan and Springfield Comprehensive Plan. The map is proposed to be adopted as an index of PDF maps that show property-specific plan designations. These are shown on refinement plan diagrams, as well as vicinity maps of the remaining areas within the Springfield urban growth boundary. The land use element of the Springfield Comprehensive Plan carries over the relevant Metro Plan designation descriptions and includes a goal, policies, and implementation strategies related to the map. The comprehensive plan amendments are provided in Attachment 1, Exhibit A in your packet. The Metro Plan amendments reflect that the Springfield Comprehensive Plan map and land use element replace the text in Metro Plan Chapter 2G, as well as plan designations shown on the Metro Plan diagram for land within the Springfield urban growth boundary. The Metro Plan amendments are provided in Attachment 1, Exhibit B. For consistency with adopting a Springfield Comprehensive Plan map and land use element, there are related amendments to neighborhood refinement plans. This included changes such as updating plan designation names to reflect how they've been consolidated and shown on the comprehensive plan map, as well as replacing references to the Metro Plan diagram that should now reference the Springfield Comprehensive Plan map. Exhibit C in your packet captures amendments to the Gateway and Glenwood refinement plans, which require Lane County co-adoption. Exhibit D in your packet captures the amendments to the East Main, Mid Springfield, and Q Street refinement plans, which only require Springfield adoption. And lastly, Exhibit E captures the downtown refinement plan amendments. These require Springfield only adoption. These amendments to the downtown refinement plan relate to the comprehensive plan map, as well as clarifying amendments that were adopted in 2005. This includes clarifying policies in the public spaces element of the downtown refinement plan by retaining new policies presented in Ordinance 6148 and deleting the policies that were first adopted with the original refinement plan in 1986. In addition to the refinement plans, there are related amendments to the Springfield Development Code to reflect changes for consistency with adopting a Springfield Comprehensive Plan map and land use element. Since the Planning Commission packet was published last week, staff identified corrections needed to the northern portion of the Q Street refinement plan boundary so that it follows city limits at the time the plan was originally adopted as intended. This resulted in corrections to the illustrative overview in your packet, the Q Street refinement plan diagram, and the Hayden Bridge Mohawk vicinity map. I'll share those real quick. Zoom in. So Q Street, as shown on the illustrative overview, more easily seen on the Q Street refinement plan diagram itself. There were a few changes to better align the refinement plan boundary with city limits as it was, so some map corrections. And then the Q Street refinement plan boundary also shown on the Hayden Bridge Mohawk map. Another question, or a question that arose since the Planning Commission packet was published, was about how to best show the Willamette Greenway. So there are two options for your consideration tonight. The first option is to keep the maps as shown in Exhibit A, where the Willamette Greenway overlay is only shown on the vicinity maps and not currently shown where it lies in Glenwood and downtown on those refinement plan diagrams. The other option is to recommend updating the downtown and Glenwood refinement plan diagrams so that they do show the Willamette Greenway overlay. So during tonight's deliberations, the commissions can consider which of those options is preferred. Why we're bringing this question is currently the refinement plan diagrams do not show the Willamette Greenway overlay as it was only shown on the Metro Plan diagram. But it's really a question of would it be helpful to add this additional information to the maps that we're proposing for adoption. So the staff report and findings in Exhibit G in your packet note the applicable approval criteria for the proposed amendments. The amendments to the Metro Plan and Comprehensive Plan for Springfield are subject to the same set of criteria, which are summarized here. Based on the findings in the staff report, the proposed amendments to the Metro Plan and Springfield Comprehensive Plan are consistent with the applicable statewide planning goals, and the amendments do not make the Metro Plan or Springfield Comprehensive Plan internally inconsistent. The approval criteria are met for these amendments. For the Springfield refinement plans and development code, they are subject to a separate set of approval criteria noted here. And based on the staff report and findings, The refinement plans and code amendments are in conformance with the Metro Plan and Springfield Comprehensive Plan. They're consistent with applicable state statutes, and they are consistent with applicable statewide planning goals and administrative rules. So the approval criteria for the refinement plans and development code amendments are also met. So for next steps, the Springfield and Lane County Planning Commissions will review the proposal and any testimony during this joint public hearing. If needed, the commissions could decide to continue the hearing or keep the record open to allow for additional public comment. As noted earlier, staff recommend that the commissions close the public hearing and written record and conduct deliberations to forward recommendations to Springfield City Council and Lane County Board of Commissioners. City Council and the Lane County Board are scheduled to hold a joint work session and public hearing on October 16th, 2023. This concludes my presentation. For your consideration, there's a draft Springfield Planning Commission order and recommendation and attachment 1 of your packet. And as Jared noted earlier, both Springfield and Lane County staff are requesting that the commission's forward recommendations of approval to City Council and Lane County Board. At this time, I'd like to see if Lane County staff have any comments they'd like to share, and if not, I'll pass it back to the chair.
Thank you, Chelsea, for that presentation. I don't have any substantive comments right now. I did just want to highlight for the Lane County Planning Commission that Lane County staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommends approval as proposed and drafted to the board. And that is all. Thank you.
Well, once again, thank you, Chelsea, for that presentation, and thank you to all the staff and also members of the public and experts who put in a lot of work on this effort. We really appreciate the time and effort that you've put into this. It really shows this is a really well thought out plan. Thank you. So, and next we will move on to testimony from interested parties. Sarah, I don't see anybody in the room, but I might as well check. Do we have anyone in the Jesse main room who'd like to speak?
No, no one's in the library meeting room.
All right, thank you. And Jared, do we have anyone in there? It doesn't look like anybody.
We do not have anyone in the good pasture room. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, and I will now call on people who have joined us via Zoom. Please raise your virtual hand if you'd like to provide public testimony. When called upon, you may unmute and turn on your camera. Please state your name and mailing address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. All right, and seeing none. Sarah, do we have anyone who's joined us by phone?
And not that has raised their hand in order to comment.
All right. Okay, so moving on to our next point, there's no testimony for staff to respond to. So we will so next, before we close the public hearing, do any of the commissioners have clarifying questions on the facts of this proposal before we close the public hearing? And we will have time for discussion once we move to a motion. All right, seeing none, it is now time to determine if we need to continue the hearing or hold the record open for submission of additional information to be considered by the Planning Commissions before our deliberations. Unless there are any objections from Planning Commissioners or staff, the Springfield Planning Commission hearing will now close. All right, seeing no objections, the Springfield Planning Commission public hearing is now closed.
The Lane County Planning Commission public hearing is now closed.
All right. Are there any objections to closing the record? As a reminder, any information that comes after the Planning Commission has closed our record will be provided to the elected officials as part of their public hearings process. So any objections to closing the record? All right, seeing none, the Springfield Planning Commission has closed the record.
The Lane County Planning Commission record is now closed.
The hearing and record are now closed, and the commissions will now have the opportunity to deliberate as a group. To facilitate the group deliberation, the commissions will begin their respective motions, in favor of approving the proposal. If we are ready to discuss the application, I will entertain a motion from the Springfield Planning Commission.
So should we have the motion before we discuss whether we want to do option 1 or option 2?
I think it'd be appropriate to hear a motion for either option 1 or 2, and then we can discuss that motion. And if need be, we can vote not to adopt that motion in favor of another.
Okay. Well, I move that we approve the order of recommending approval of the plan and code amendments option 2.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll now take a. Okay, so now we'll take a motion from Lane County Commissioners.
If we are ready to discuss the application, I will entertain a motion from the Lane County Planning Commission. And just for the record, for Lane County Planning Commission, staff very helpfully sent out a script that included some sample language one could use if one would like to make a motion. I believe Jared sent it out this afternoon.
This is Commissioner Cho. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I am prepared to make a motion, but I am frantically searching my paperwork to find the motions 1 and 2 so that I make, or options so that I correctly make the motion. If anyone wants to beat me to it, feel free.
And I will note that we already have a motion on the table from the Springfield Planning Commission for option 2, which includes correcting the Q Street refinement plan boundary as shown in the maps on slide 7, and recommending amendments to show the, in this case, to show the Willamette Greenway overlay.
Thank you. And having heard that, the details of that option clarified, I will make the motion that Lane County approve the same option, number 2.
This is Commissioner Snyder. I'll second that motion.
All right, thank you, commissioners. So we have a 2 complementary motions for option 2 to approve the order and recommendation with the corrections to the Q Street refinement plan boundary and showing the Willamette Greenway overlay on the proposed downtown and Glenwood refinement plan diagrams provided in attachment 1. Do we have any discussion? Vice Chair Rhodes Dye.
Thank you. I was just gonna say, I don't have a super strong opinion about this, but it seems to me that including the Greenway complements the mission of this document. So especially since the city is doing a lot of redevelopment along the river, I think it makes sense to show as much detail there as possible for people who want to make changes to their property, which is what this document is for.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rhodes Dye. Commissioner Choate.
Hey, star 9 does work. So I don't have a strong opinion either about the Greenway, but in my view of the maps on the screen as the presentations were going earlier tonight, I didn't see where it detracted from anything, so I see no good reason not to include it.
I agree with the 2 points put forward that I think it is helpful information to see the Greenway overlay, and yeah, just it's helpful to have more information. It doesn't seem like it's unnecessarily detracting or unnecessarily complicated.
Do we need to modify any motions to include the Greenway?
Not as such. The motion included option 2. The motion presented was option 2, which included both the Q Street refinement plan boundary and the Willamette, including the Willamette Greenway overlay. Commissioner Dignam, did you have your hand raised?
Yes, thank you. Chair, are you looking just for comments from the Springfield Planning Commission, or is this an okay time for Lane County? Eliza, maybe you can.
This is an okay time to, I'm entertaining comments from both just
Okay,
because we'll
I
need to.
intend to support the motion. The blob map needs to be changed. We're changing it. I'm confident that the staff outreach to potentially impacted members of the community was sufficient, if not over and above sufficient. And we certainly didn't see anyone here objecting. So I'm going to vote to get rid of the blob. And as far as the other issues, I really have the Greenway, et cetera. I don't see how that is of impact to any Lane County matters. So I will vote in favor of the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Dignam. Any other points of discussion from either commission? All right, seeing none, I think we're ready to move to a vote. Sandy, would you mind calling roll? For Springfield Planning Commission in particular, and then we'll move to Lane County Planning Commission.
Sure. Commissioner Salazar,
Aye.
Commissioner Buck,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
I think that Commissioner Thompson dropped out and
Left,
was not
yeah.
able to jump back in.
Okay. Commissioner Schmunk
Aye.
and Commissioner Rhodes Dye.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes unanimously.
All right, then I believe we will call the question for Lane County. Staff, would you like to call roll?
Yes, I'm happy to. We'll start with you, Chair Kaczynski.
Aye.
Commissioner Choate.
Aye.
Commissioner Dignam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hadley.
Aye.
Commissioner Snyder.
Aye.
And Commissioner Whittall.
Commissioner Whittall is absent.
Oh yeah, thank you, sorry.
Yes. It sounds like the motion carries 5 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 absent.
All right, thank you, everyone. That concludes our meeting for today. So on behalf of both planning commissions, thank you for joining us and speaking tonight. And this meeting of the Springfield Planning Commission is now adjourned, and we'll see you for our next joint meeting.
The meeting of the Lane County Planning Commission is now adjourned.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.